Good morning and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us at the webinar on our special panel discussion, Securing Remote Collaboration During the Pandemic. My name is Liron Barak. I am the CEO and co-founder here at BitDam, but I am the least interesting person here. Today we have three special guests that I'm honored to host here. We have Michael Sherwood. Michael is the Chief Innovation Officer at the City of Las Vegas, joining us from Nevada. We also have Norman, who is the Head of IT at LSage Auto UK. LSage is the leading Mercedes-Benz retailer with over 143 Mercedes-Benz dealerships worldwide. And last but not least, Daniel Bird, who heads the IT of Graham's The Family Dairy, all the way from Scotland. Welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us for this session. We're planning to have an open conversation today, talking about what it's like to be in charge of IT security these days, when things are crazy everywhere, but especially when it comes to IT and cybersecurity. Let's start off with a little bit about the background of each of you and the organization you represent. Daniel, why don't we start with you?
Yes, hi there. Yes, I'm the group head of IT here at Graham's Family Dairy. We're a family-run business, been operating since 1939, supplying milk and cream and ice cream and butter, etc., to over 7,000 customers, UK-wide and internationally. I've been in the role here for approximately 5 years, looking after everything from IT security through to WAN connectivity and ERP solutions. So it's a busy job. Prior to Graham's, I was the managing director of an MSP, doing cloud consultancy primarily and Office 365 consultancy. So I've become a bit of the gamekeeper turned poacher. So yeah, it's been an interesting few years.
Norman, feel free.
Yeah, no, I want to say thanks, Leon. Norman McKeown, as you said, I'm the head of IT for LSage Auto in the UK. We are one of the largest Mercedes dealer groups globally. I've been lucky enough to do this role for about 4 years, touching pretty much anything a cable touches, from cloud to infrastructure to telephony to CCTV systems, all falls under my remit. It's been a whirlwind 4 years since we launched the company in the UK. Prior to that, I did a short stint at Siemens Power Generation Services. And before that, I was over 17 years at PSA, Peugeot Citroën. So worked on the manufacturer side of automotive, and I'm gatekeeper turned poacher, having now moved on to the retail and dealer side. So it's been a good 4 years and plenty more to keep me busy.
I guess I'll go now. Michael Sherwood. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer for the City of Las Vegas. I don't think any introduction needs to be done for Las Vegas. We're an entertainment destination where you come and have fun. Been here for roughly 5 years. Like many of the other individuals on the call, I oversee everything from cable, infrastructure, CCTV, all basic systems, anything technology-based or that plugs into a wall for the most part falls under our purview. Very proud to work here, very happy to be in this community in the great state of Nevada. It's an honor to be on with all of you today, such esteemed colleagues. Again, you know, really, when it comes down to it, security, protecting our digital assets is our #1 priority now. As more and more of the city and the community rely on technology, protecting those assets become increasingly important.
Okay, thank you, guys. And why want we start with some tough questions? So it would be interesting to hear what were your top information security challenges during the pandemic, I would say.
Well, I think for me, because I would say the automotive industry, certainly in the UK, was one of the more challenging divisions that had to move to remote working and home working. It's not something we traditionally do. In the car industry, people come in and they want to walk in and touch the metal and buy the cars. So whilst the majority of our industry shut down, we kept 2 facilities open for key workers during the lockdown in the UK. our biggest challenge was twofold. It was taking a predominantly paper-based business and moving it digitally and electronically and doing that securely and quickly. And also down to then actually getting users who have never worked from home in their life before to understand the unique differences and challenges that whilst it may appear that they're sitting at their desk in the office because of the access we give them, there are some unique considerations to take into account, and some simple things from I don't have the scanner right next to me, right through to remembering to ensure that their VPN is running and their security is up, that we're not constantly there nagging them. So that was a big challenge from us, was taking a very legacy industry and bringing it into the 21st century very rapidly.
I like the fact that Norman thinks that the car industry is a legacy industry. Yeah, milking cows is pretty old school as well, and we've got certainly a very paper-based culture, and that can pose a lot of challenges. I think we're probably slightly different to a lot of companies that have been affected with the current crisis. Our sales have gone up, and we've had financially we've had a 3 or 4 very strong months, and that's been just a change in people's behavior, change in the way we're doing sales. While we lost about 3,000 customers as soon as lockdown hit, the demand for milk just went from people buying a latte in Costa Coffee to buying lots of milk for the house.
Right.
And increases in what we call doorstep sales, so your sort of traditional milkman sales, which are higher margin ways of doing business. With the supermarket, because it's in bulk, it's great. There's not so much logistics and customer service, and with the doorstep piece, it's much higher margin. So we had to obviously move as many people home as possible to shut down the offices while keep them working at 100%. So we had some challenges around paper-based solutions, and certainly things like scanning, as Norman mentioned there, people taking scanners home. Even the tracking of what people were taking home was a challenge in the first couple of weeks. We were getting phone calls like, is it okay if I take my desk chair home? So not sure about these things. And then we had a challenge around hardware. As being a very traditional business, we had a lot of physical desktops, very few laptops. So we were trying to send people home we're unable to source corporate laptops. So we had to do a lot of BYOD type things, getting people up and running on their own systems from home. How can we secure that access? Can we give them access to the company share drives into VPNs on personal devices? And how do we protect that? So that, for me, was the biggest security concern to begin with.
So very much the same, along with the lines of my esteemed colleagues here. It was shifting roughly 3,000 people from coming into physical offices, moving them to their home locations, obviously shortages of equipment, laptops, and so forth, but going to a complete remote infrastructure. We were really leveraged some of the tools we already had in place, including Azure and including other types of remote connectivity, which really helped us and allowed us to get moving. The other issue, though, was we still had to maintain staffing levels at our facilities. So having staff, getting them prepared up with PPE or protective equipment, protective equipment, and still be able to operate. We co-locate a lot of our infrastructure at other locations through service providers. So being able to gain access to those facilities for repair and maintenance, we never in our planning had those type of issues and challenges to deal with. So we managed through that. Overall, it was very easy in some ways to move quickly. The hardest part, which we've learned through this pandemic, is just the user education we need to do. Just basic security education, just basic overall compute skills, which we take for granted in our department. We're the technology department. Most of us are familiar with it. But then adopting that to workers that can't come down to our office or can't work with us and can only talk to us over a phone, trying to explain what cable goes where, how to make these things work. So we came up with some really ingenious ideas, basically took ideas from YouTube and TED Talks and made little videos and then sent those out to employees to help bridge that digital divide. And it's something that's still that we're going to work on going forward. Other than that, the biggest issue was security. Access to data, how that's going to move around in this new age of a decentralized work environment.
Okay, and did you specifically regarding the information security, plan, I would say, did you narrow or broaden or change in any way your information security toolbox in the past few months? And why did you do that or didn't do that?
Well, for us, I'll go first. For us, we were compromised, and we use the word compromised in January, right before COVID. And based on that, we took a lot of measures. So we were kind of ahead of the curve for us, just based on that incident. Obviously, part of that was more monitoring tools, a harder look at our infrastructure, and a re-emphasized focus on how we manage cybersecurity, not just internally, but across the organization, especially passwords. And part of that was implementing a two-factor system, which wasn't popular at the time, but has definitely through COVID been a great opportunity to have those type of systems in place. So, through that security, a lot more, it has not been as hard to get executives to provide investment into cybersecurity based on the compromise that we had in late January. And then obviously through COVID, again, security's been on the minds of everybody. So getting the tools now, not as difficult. Implementing them is the challenge, and getting the users to understand them is even the greater long-term challenge.
Yeah, no, just echoing what Michael said, we're very similar. We looked in, we had the same issues as both Michael and David have mentioned in terms of shortage of hardware. I think I found one supplier could supply me with laptops, but it was on a 5-week lead time, which when I was shutting a business down in 3 days was no good. Luckily, we had small form desktops with Wi-Fi cards in them, so we didn't have the BYOD issue. We had users who were able to go home, but I like giving myself a challenge. We were actually in the middle of an infrastructure change when COVID hit the UK. So data center change, VPN service change, network change. We were right in the last 6 weeks of that, just as the UK locked down. So very much as Michael has mentioned, the biggest challenge we had was around users, and we did some videos as well, some how-to guides with video voiceovers. Our biggest implementation we brought forward multi-factor authentication. We'd had a user account compromised that we luckily caught within 5 minutes of the compromise. So there was no risk to the business. There was no leakage of data. We caught it very quickly and shut that account down. But we then accelerated our rollout of MFA. And as I said, the hardest bit was getting the users to read the instructions on how to set it up. Once they're up and running, actually, they all quite like it now. But it was, the number of calls was, this isn't working, and they'd missed step 1 or step 3 and do that. But we were quite lucky that we had a partner who worked with us very well and really understood what we were trying to achieve. And that was a big bonus to us in ensuring that we were secure during the whole changeover, moving terabytes of data between data centers in the middle of this pandemic. And it was having a really good partner who understood our business and our organization. But then again, having the backing of the executive board and the MD to put in the extra layer of security. Again, as Michael has said, there wasn't a long conversation around the implementation of it. It was, yep, we need this, let's get it done, and let's get it done efficiently.
Yeah, I think we had, we were quite lucky. We already had the bulk of our services in the cloud. We'd already implemented multi-factor for a number of years. But where we had multi-factor we only allowed certain people to access services out with our offices. And then all of a sudden it's that bulk enrollment of users into MFA. So the infrastructure was all there, but that pain of actually getting the users to follow the instructions was challenging. And you also have the personal information piece around that. So where we don't have company mobile phones out with people who are saying, well, actually, you need to put your mobile phone number in here. But I don't want you to have my mobile phone number. It's not for anything other than helping you secure your account. getting that piece through was quite challenging. But COVID became quite a good stick to beat people with around a lot of IT projects. So things like migration of documents to SharePoint and user adoption within Teams and things like that. These are all technologies we already had, but we weren't using them anywhere near enough. So we had to, we used this as an excuse to rapidly do this. So we're doing this because of this. We have to do it now. And that worked in our favor, I think.
And you all talked about, of course, about adjusting your, your teams, your entire organization to working from home, and this comes, along with a variety of challenges. It will be interesting for me, for us, I guess, to understand, like, is the pandemic caused your organization to use more collaboration tools such as OneDrive, Teams, Zoom, and others? And if so, how do you ensure that all those, all your enterprise collaboration platforms are actually protected?
I think that, as I said before, I think we were already using a lot of these technologies and they were already in place, but underutilized, and getting the user adoption piece up and running was key for that. So we've not invested in any new technology. We're not doing anything that we couldn't do before. We're just doing more of it. And for me, to have people dialing in from BYOD devices onto sort of legacy share drives was a security challenge. But if we start moving these things into SharePoint and into OneDrive, they become a bit more secure, especially because that's being protected by BitDam. So we've got that protection there at the server side as well as on the client side. So that made me sleep easier at night, put it that way.
Yeah, I think we're in a similar position. We've been Office 365 since we launched in 2016, but I think outside of the IT department, probably Skype for Business was the only collaboration tool, and that was used by maybe a seventh of the organization. We've been pushing Teams and making the information available and saying it's a really useful collaboration tool. And there was a little bit, we were just starting to gain traction. And then suddenly we took a business decision where our business is spread between two areas, the Birmingham and Manchester market areas in the UK. And before lockdown, we took a decision to reduce traveling. So one of the first meetings we converted to online was a meeting with our senior management and our general managers who run each facility. And we ran that, I pushed and we ran that through Teams. And instead of it being an all day 9 to 6 meeting with up to 2 hours traveling either end, we had the entire agenda covered by 3 p.m. and everybody was saying, this is fantastic. Why haven't we done this before? So I think, from the IT department point of view, it was a feather in our cap because it really allows us to showcase. And again, as David has said, we have our OneDrive, our email, our Teams, all protected by BitDam.
Right.
And with what I've seen since I started using BitDam last year, I know that if there is something that does tend to creep in, it'll be picked up like that, and we can then react if and when we need to. So it's been a real opportunity to showcase how IT departments are not just there to fix something they're broken. We can bring a real value add in terms of collaboration, but secure collaboration to the business and not having people storing things here, there, and everywhere, which is out of control.
Yeah, I agree with Norman. I mean, it's basically, you got to have the right tools. BitDam's been our go-to tool for all of our Office 365 offerings, which is our mainstay for how we do remote work in the city. The other area that we've really lacked, including, having great tools is one thing, but it's the cybersecurity team on our side, getting them educated and trained on how to use the tools, and then working remotely where they're not sitting next to each other, being able to share information and talk, but working in a remote environment, almost like we're doing here meeting. It's a different environment to be able to work through issues and still collaborate with our infrastructure team and with our desktop team. So that's been a challenge, but overall it's having solid tools in place like BitDam that's really made the difference for us and feeling comfortable with deploying all these remote services. It's not a normal thing for us. We're come to the building, use our technology in our facilities, other than getting email on your phone, there was very little getting service access to our internal environment. That just wasn't the way government worked. It's changing. It's changed in days and weeks rather than years. But having solid tools is really what saves the day.
Okay, thank you guys. And we hear a lot about threats that are being sent to organizations today. A lot of organizations that got ransomware or another data breach. And a lot of people are saying that during the pandemic there is a significant growth in the work that hackers, are doing. And it will be interesting, to hear from you because you have a lot of experience in this field. How do you explain the fact that although organizations have so many malware protection solutions in place, there are still so many successful cyber attacks? And also, this is another angle of that. It will be interesting if you can share if your organizations experience more cyber attacks during the pandemic, and if those attacks were sent through a certain channel or through different channels. It would be great to hear from what you experienced during the last few months.
Yeah, I think our biggest increase has been through phishing emails. Since March, that has gone through the roof, certainly for us as an organization. I think the cyber criminals have tried to take the opportunity to exploit the fact that we are not working together in the same office, and because we do a lot of transaction, people buying Mercedes-Benz vehicles, it's it's quite a sizable investment, and we've certainly seen an uptick in malicious attachments and credential harvesting attacks coming into the business, or attempting to come into the business. As you mentioned, there are so many cybersecurity tools, and the way I explain it to the board is it's a bit like car security. So we'll invent new technology for the cars that we sell. Criminals will find a way to exploit that. So we then invent more security, and it's a constant game of cat and mouse. I think that's it. Every time we close a loophole in cybersecurity, they inevitably try and find another route in. And because we are in such a connected world now, I go back to the early days of my career when I first put corporate Wi-Fi in and was told it's criticality 0. If it goes down, fix it when you can. And within 2 months of it going in, as soon as it went down, the MD was on the phone shouting at me, wanting it back up and running again. People are so used to it. We're so used to being able to access things easily, which is great. But the side effect of that is giving easy access gives more route into security. So having a suite of security tools means you've got a more chance of catching it if they try another route than if you only have your standard spam filtering, email protection, even some of the fairly market leading protections. You need to have a number of those to keep going around and just try and keep locking them out of your systems.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think Norman's absolutely right. I think the multi-tiered approach is critical. I think in an industry where the chairman of the company is a farmer, and it's a challenge to get him to lock his Mercedes. We sit there and go, actually, no, you can't just have password as your password. Yes, you must lock your computer. No, you can't just click on everything. These are the challenges that we have to get past. That user piece. We have quite limited sophistication in IT understanding as for the user base, shall we say. And that means that as an IT department, we've got to protect them as much as possible. So putting in BitDam alongside other tools gives us that multi-tiered approach. And that's one of the reasons I quite liked the way BitDam approached the email security piece. Was the way it interfaces with Office 365, it sits inside the mailboxes. Therefore, we can have a perimeter security protection, and we can have an mailbox security protection. And that's what I really liked about it. As for an increase in attacks, our reporting says there have been more attacks. We've not had a huge amount more through to the mailboxes, through to the users than normal, but certainly the stats are showing that more are being attempted.
So definitely, attacks are on the rise. They have been. I mean, our name, Las Vegas, every time we're in the newspaper or something, the attacks rise up even more. There's been a lot of press today. Some of the casinos are laying off a lot of individuals. So the attack vector or attack surface, because we're in the news, rises. But again, to Daniel's comments, having a layered approach, so multiple tools and using BitDam as our main, most of our attacks come through email, the old-fashioned way, through phishing. You know, you would think by now, again, I go back, user education, user education, user education. Most of them are very plain to see, but, you know, in the world we live in today, people are, you know, I got this email from the mayor. Well, I look at it and the email address is nowhere near what the mayor's email address, but they're so focused on, it looks like it's from the mayor. They don't look at the email address and immediately start responding to these individuals. And that's the key, is the education. So, well, the tools have been fabulous. We haven't had any issues, and the layered approach is working. It's the education of our users, which is most important. And phishing continues to be, well, method continues to be the most troublesome issue within our organization.
Yeah, I can just add or actually agree. Yeah, that we also, among all of our customers, see like a significant increase in the number of the threats that we are detecting. It's always very significant, but now it's even more, and we see a lot of phishing. So I guess that you know, just what you were saying kind of reflected also in our, you know, in the data that we see on a daily basis in our system. On a different, I would say, a bit different topic. So it would be interesting to hear, how do you balance security with business and productivity needs? I guess that it's super relevant to, you know, all the challenges that you described just now. And it would be great to hear if you have any tip that you can share with us.
I think the key thing there is that the productivity has got to be there, and if you're security compromised, you have zero productivity. So therefore,
that's for sure.
You've got to put these measures in place to protect the productivity. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think for us, the biggest challenge I've got, as I'm sure we all have, is users will take the shortest way to get out to where they want to get to. So I think, you know, as Michael mentioned in his previous comments, it's user education. So it's not just we're putting these tools in, you know, we're not being the IT department putting these tools in to make your life awkward. We're actually doing it to make your life easier. So as well as understanding how to use them, the understanding of why we're doing certain things and why we're putting it in, especially if it's not something nice and shiny, they can instantly see. If it is, most of our security work is hidden in the back end. One of the things I loved about BitDam was the ease of deployment. I didn't have to teach my users how to use a new security email system. It sits around my mail system. But it's explaining them and getting them to understand why we're doing this. We're not just doing this because it's a new shiny tool that we want to play with most of the time. But, you know, we're doing it for a reason, to protect the business, to ultimately make your life easier. But yeah, it is also the user education piece, you know, get them to look, just because it's the MD's name displayed in your inbox, is it their email address? And quite often it's not. And it's getting them to learn to recognize those things. That's probably the biggest wins you can get.
We had one person catch a CEO fraud email simply because the message was too polite.
I like that one.
Oh, I waiting for me. I think they've said it well. I don't think I have much more I can add on to that comment.
Cool, that's fine. And maybe we should move forward to our last question for this session. It's known to us, like everyone is talking about remote work becoming the new normal, even after the coronavirus will be gone. And it would be great to hear what will be the influence of this period on organization cybersecurity, in your opinion.
It is the new normal. I don't think going back to the way, even for government, which we're generally slow adopters of anything new and shiny, it's definitely a trend that's not going to stop, which is going to complicate our security posture, definitely. It's definitely going to put more reliance on letting go of certain aspects of our operation, not being able to be fully in control. Azure was a big leap for us to give up our email servers locally and move all that to the cloud. OneDrive was even a bigger leap. Teams now, while we've had it for years and under different names, SharePoint, Teams, and every year it has a new name, but the concept of sharing documents and all of that has been something we haven't really utilized up until just recently. So again, that's what really makes us very proud customers of BitDam, is that it is an evolving platform that's, as our ecosystem evolves and changes, the BitDam system evolves and changes with our organization and kind of interweaves with the technology solutions we're going with, which is definitely, it's going to be a mobile world and a remote world where we have to be flexible to provide the services to all of our customers in any condition. And be able to gain access to all the tools and resources, just like if they were in the physical building itself. So it'll be very challenging, but with great partners, we know that, we will be able to meet that challenge head on.
Yeah, I think the new normal. I don't like these marketing terms like the new normal, but yeah, we're going to be taking security in a different light. I think security and home working, having more mobile users, people being outside that corporate firewall, I think, VPNs or otherwise different ways of securing access is going to be key. I mean, I'm currently trialing sort of physical keys at the moment for laptops as well, and for cloud access. I've always been one to focus on identity. I think all the security things should be identity first. One of my pet hates is having a different password for every system, and leads to people putting post-it notes around their screens and things like that. So the more constant, the more you can consolidate that identity piece and protect that as a fortress with MFA, with physical keys, with physical tokens. These are the things that we'll need to be looking at more and more.
Yeah, I think it's the new norm. I think it's for IT departments. It's a double-edged sword. It's been a real opportunity for us to showcase what we can bring to the organization. But as both Michael and David have said, and I've not much more to add, it adds an extra layer of complication. I think for my industry, it proves that we can do things more digitally. One of the surprises for me was the number of vehicles we sold completely online during lockdown. So we can start to finish online through, all paperless, all electronic, which is great. But, we've got to protect those customers. We've got, that's key for us. And one of the reasons why I like the BitDam platform is that not only helps protect my users and my organization, I know it's helping me protect our customers as well, which helps them protect our brand and our brand image. But it is that constantly treading that tightrope between ease of use and accessibility, but keeping it secure and keeping all the business data secure. That's the tightrope we've got to walk going forward, even more so than pre-COVID.
Okay, sounds like there are also some good surprises in this period of time, no doubt about it. Cool. Thank you guys very much for joining us to for this session today. It was super helpful, and I wish all of us, a better, healthy period of time.
Yeah, thank you, Liron. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Cheers, bye.